Today's episode of the Motor City Sports Rant is made possible thanks to two great sponsors, the DFS Doctors and the Motor City Pawnbrokers. Do you play FanDuel and feel like you aren't creating consistent money-making lineups? Go over to the DFS Doctors on Twitter at the DFS Doctors. That's at the DFS Doctors, and direct message them with promo code Detroit Sports to get a free trial for their analytically formulated 70% lifetime profit rate in NFL and NBA lineups, meaning that you'll get a lineup that more often than not is going to bring you back dollars. And then if you subscribe, you're going to have an analytical team helping you set lineups that will bring you back money. Who doesn't like to win? If you play daily fantasy sports, the objective is to win money. And the DFS Doctors, they're there. They're the cure to help your pocketbook swell. Again, check it out. No risk. Direct message the DFS Doctors, Detroit Sports, today. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're looking for quality, brand name new, and pre-owned merchandise with locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren. Their mission is to deliver exceptional value. For all information regarding the Motor City Pawnbrokers, today, go to motorcitypawnbrokers.com. And if you're near Roseville, Warren, Ferndale, or Detroit, head in to one of the pawn shops and tell them the Detroit Sports Podcast sent you. Mark and the crew, they're dedicated to providing exceptional customer service. For all information regarding the Motor City Pawnbrokers, head to motorcitypawnbrokers.com today to learn all the great deals and save some money. Motor City Pawnbrokers, a great sponsor of the podcast.
Detroit is the greatest! Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Welcome in, everybody, to the latest edition of the Motor City Sports Rant. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Looking forward to bringing you guys another great broadcast. So much to talk about in the world of Detroit sports. I got a great interview as well. The executive director of the Rocket Mortgage Classic will be joining me on this edition of the podcast, Jason Langwell. Tickets are already available for the 2020 Rocket Mortgage Classic. You can head on over to rocketmortgageclassic.com and pick them up. A great experience. If you were lucky enough to get out there last year to the Detroit Golf Club, you know you enjoyed the experience. I did as well, covering the event. And tickets are now available for the 2020 event. I look forward to talking to Jason. The inaugural event won some awards, and I think Jason will definitely provide some additional information regarding what are some of the new happenings that will take place in 2020. My interview with Jason is just up ahead, and just after, I got some opinions regarding the Detroit Tigers and their new relationship with Nike. And to end this edition of the Motor City Sports Rant, I have to complain a little bit about the Baseball Selection Committee. When you vote and you don't include Lou Whitacker in the Hall of Fame, something's wrong. And it's unfortunate that, this past weekend, Lou had an opportunity to be inducted, and it did not happen. I'm going to give my thoughts regarding his omission from the Hall of Fame. But to start off the podcast, here is my interview that I conducted with Jason Langwell, the executive director of the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Jason Langwell here today to talk to me about the 2020 Rocket Mortgage Classic. I know that plans are in place to look ahead to next year's tournament, but I want to start today's interview looking back to last year's. At the PGA Tour meetings, the Rocket Mortgage Classic was awarded 3 awards: the Best Special Event, Best Tournament Sales, and the Fairway Award. What did it mean to you to be recognized at the meetings for a great inaugural event?
Well, John, it obviously meant a lot. I mean, anytime you get recognized, you feel good about it. It was a great validation for, what I think was one of the best team efforts that I've been a part of in my entire career. I mean, between our title sponsor, Rocket Mortgage, all of our volunteers, all of our sponsors. I mean, when you get awards like that, it takes a lot of people, more than just our tournament team, to make it happen. And it was really good validation. I mean, we're proud of all of them. To be the most awarded event on the PGA Tour, we're, like anything, you go and hoping to get 1 award, to walk out of there with 3, which, we were amazed no one else received it. Just felt great. Felt great, and validation for all the hard work we put in. The Fairway Award was one we were really going after. That's a new award in the PGA Tour that recognizes an event for their efforts in diversity and inclusion, which was a huge priority for us, a huge priority for our title sponsor. It's what Detroit's all about. And, so to win that was great. And then the Sales Award was awesome, along with the best special event of the year with the Area 313 Celebrity Challenge that we had on Tuesday last year. We'll have again this year. It just, put a nice little cap, a little bow on top of what was an amazing team effort.
Yeah, running an event like that is an amazing undertaking. What did you learn in year one, and how will that change things for 2020?
Well, there's always things you can look back on and think that you tweak a little bit, especially with a first-year event. And we'll look to make some of those. I think as we look into 2020, I think the general theme on the tweaks we'll make is how do we make it bigger and better, right? That's what we're going to try to do. So we're going to have, more sponsor and hospitality offerings. The Cabana products that we had were really popular. We're going to add those to 18. They were just on 15 and 17 last year. We're going to have some expanded, the Cabanas we do have on 15 are going to be double deckers that Tryon supported, more public viewing decks, more grandstands. We had a lot of people out there, and we want to, give them more of a place that they can sit inside, especially inside of our famed Area 313. One of the new additions I'm really excited about is this Monday, Tuesday combo ticket. We're going to have this $15 family 2-day ticket, which is going to be the best value in all Detroit sports and entertainment. So you'll be able to come out on Monday, go to do a kids clinic with some of our top professionals. You'll then be able to participate in a cookout out on the driving range on Memorial Day Monday. And then you'll be able to come back with that ticket on Tuesday and access the best special event on the PGA Tour, the Area 303 Celebrity Challenge. And just remind everyone, juniors 15 and under are free with a paying adult up to 4. So those are just a few of what are a bunch of additional fun options that we're doing to take and make the event even more festive and affordable for the community.
The Rocket Mortgage Classic has tickets available now starting on Monday. You can go to rocketmortgageclassic.com. The 2020 tickets are on sale now. It would make a great holiday gift. Look, Jason, I can give you credit. I covered it via the media. It was a great opportunity to get out there. All the golfers were definitely accommodating, and it was a great field. Last year's field was definitely one in which was highlighted by a lot of great golf and won by Nate Lashley. It was overall a great event.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. We promised to have a great field again this year. We love our location. Our date, May 25th to the 31st, is new due to the Olympics coming just this one year to the schedule. But we like that slot, just on the front end of the Memorial, which always gets a great field. Jack's event. We like the idea of being right on the front end of them. We think that's going to bring yet another great field to what will be an even bigger and better 2020 at the Rocket Mortgage Classic.
Yeah, it probably is a little too early to say anything about the field, but can you comment at all about how that's coming along and the process you and the staff are working to bring another high-quality field to the Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit?
Yeah, well, the process is underway. I think as a lot of people know now, what's unique about PGA Tour events is you have to go out and recruit your own field. They're all independent contractors. They can play wherever they want. They've got, 45-plus events they can play in. They choose to play in 20 to 25 of them. And we had a great field, as you said, chose to play in Detroit last year. So far, so good. We've been out. Early recruiting efforts are positive. You get the credit with the players in year 2 for all the work you did in year 1, right? All the stuff we did for the caddies, the player experience that we created downtown, the stuff they did away from the golf course, I think is what really surprised and impressed them. Tigers being in town. They're in town again this year. We got the Grand Prix over the weekend. We got a lot of motorsports fans at the professional ranks in golf. All that stuff helps us. And so, I think... we've got great amenities. Kevin Kisner, I talked to the other day, said, "Hey, how's my favorite hotel on the PGA Tour doing?" Referring to Shinola. So we got a lot working for us, and early signs are positive that we're gonna get a great field.
No doubt about it. And I think one of the great storylines that happened last year was Nate Lashley winning. His story was amazing, especially the story that he brought to the table, winning the inaugural Rocket Mortgage Classic. Yeah,
it was amazing. Nate's an amazing guy. It's an amazing story. And he's excited to, he'll obviously be back. We're excited to have him back. We had him in town for the Thanksgiving Day parade, put him on our Rocket Mortgage Classic float. He then went to the Lions game afterwards. And so it was a nice little opportunity for him to take a cool victory lap, literally, through downtown Detroit. And he's really excited. But we had a ton of great stories last year. I mean, when you say Doc Redman, who finished second, I mean, his story doesn't get told enough for what he did to get in on Monday qualifying and finish second and qualify for the Open Championship. They gave him status this year. I mean, there's so many awesome comeback Detroit stories that were a part of it, and we're excited to have that happen again this year.
And again, one of the great points and things that are highlighted by the Rocket Mortgage Classic is the work that you did in the community. How has that been, and how has that received in terms of all the great community events and things that took place in and around the city of Detroit surrounding that week, the Rocket Mortgage Classic?
Well, that's what this is all about. I mean, for us, it's all about figuring out a way to have a positive impact in the community in the city of Detroit. And we were able to do that. We're, still a little ways away. Shortly, we'll be announcing some details on as we close our books on the type of benefit we're able to give to local charities. But we're looking to make a significant impact on a number of them. Our official charitable partners are groups like the Detroit Golf Club Caddy Scholarship Foundation, the First Tee of Greater Detroit, Midnight Golf, the Greater Palmer Park Community, the Detroit Children's Fund, all amazing, worthy organizations right in the heart of downtown Detroit. Our goal is really to help those organizations put in place some real meaningful programming. It's not only going to help individuals, but really strengthen the community as a whole. And we feel that we're going to be able to do that and are excited to make some announcements on that front. So, and just look to build on that, right? That's an area too. You talk about an event and what you try to do to make it better. We're going to do the same thing and working with our nonprofit partners to take what they're doing and create a significant incremental impact that is good for their organization and Detroit as a whole.
Yeah, in and around the world of the PGA Tour, lots of interesting things happening. This week is the President's Cup. Tiger Woods is on his quest for a record 83 PGA Tour victories. Give me your sense of what your opinions are regarding the PGA Tour, this week's President's Cup, and Tiger Woods.
Well, great. I mean, it's great to see him playing often and playing well again. I think, look, I'm a little biased here on the U.S. side. I think the team's shaping up really well. I like how Tiger's put it together. He was, I know he's really excited about it. We got a great field. A lot of players on that President's Cup are actually, played in the event last year. But I like our chances. I mean, I think I would tell you too, just for golf in general, we almost need the other side to win a little bit more. I think it helps the President's Cup, when there's a true, real rivalry in place. And I think that the field is shaping up and the competition is shaping up to be very competitive this year. And I'm rooting for us, but deep down, I tell you, just for the overall event itself, I think it could use a little bit of a competitive back and forth with that cup changing hands a little bit.
One last thing with Jason Langwell, the executive director of the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Tickets are available now for next year's event. Go out there and grab it. Trust me, it makes for a great experience. Everyone that I've talked to that's reached out or followed us on the Detroit Sports Podcast had nothing but great things to say. Feel free to go to today, rocketmortgageclassic.com. Tickets are only going to be available for a limited time, so don't miss out. I did want to ask you a little bit about the course in and of itself. Are there going to be minor nooks and crannies maybe adjusted to the course to make it a little bit more difficult? I think that's one of the things that I think a lot of our supporters looked at a little bit and said, okay, great first event. Nate did a great job, but is there an opportunity to make this course a little bit tougher for these professional golfers?
Sure. I mean, it's hard to make any golf course these days tough enough for these professional golfers. When you see what the players did in Medina this last year, right? In the FedEx Cup, there was, well over almost double-digit players that were up in the 20s under par. We only had one in Nate who, just had an amazing week. We had no one else got to 20. But you look week in, week out, pretty much every time players are getting up right in that high teens, low 20 range, which is, again, but we're look to do that. I think we learned a lot. We've taken a look at a lot of the ShotLink data, working closely with our partners at Detroit Golf Club and the PGA Tour. We'll be making some tweaks to tee locations, looking at the rough, may look to bring the rough up a little bit, and then taking over the course of time, just some other things to do over the course of time. We're taking a long-term view on this, and how can we make the golf course better? Got some great feedback from Charles Howell, and a number of the players on tour. Bubba Watson leaned in. You find pretty quickly some of these PGA Tour players fancy themselves as course designers, which is great because we all do, right? As golfers, we all got our own little things that we want to do. Some people are bunker people, right? They want to add bunkers. Some are like bring the fairways in. Some are like widen the fairways and make the rough taller. We're getting all kinds of that feedback and going to take that into account. But rest assured, when we tee things up, for the 2020 Rocket Mortgage Classic. We'll have a very, very strong golf course. They'll be competitive and challenging for the players, and it'll take into account their feedback and the feedback we got from the tour, and it'll make for a great viewing experience and great challenge for everybody.
Yeah, again, I recommend everybody today go to rocketmortgageclassic.com. Get your hands on a great gift. I mean, if you're a fan of golf or one of your family members is a fan of PGA Tour golf, it's back in Detroit. It was a great inaugural event, and you can buy tickets now on sale through December 22nd. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks a lot. Good to be with you.
Welcome back in. I told you guys I'm going to talk baseball in the second half of the podcast, and my first thought is I just got a glimpse of the Detroit Tigers' new uniform. And I did some reading, and I became aware that Nike is now a corporate sponsor of Major League Baseball. And good for Nike. Look, you can't begrudge a company for wanting to put their logo all over the place. And Major League Baseball, the teams, you have to admit they're in it for a profit. No entity in the world of sports is going to turn down corporate sponsors. That's part of the thing. That's part of the game. And when a corporate sponsor, decides, hey, we're going to shell out a bunch of dollars all across Major League Baseball, they're going to want to flash their logo in certain spots. Now, I did get my first glance at it, and definitely it is a little bit jarring to see the Nike swoosh, next to the Old English D. Now, it's not on the same side. The uniform has the patch on the left side. The Nike swoosh is located on the right side on the chest. And so I thought about it, and I looked at it, and I said, okay, if you're Nike, obviously you want a prime spot, you want it on the jersey. But I just think from the perspective of where people will see it, if a batter, is at home plate and you want to put it in a spot where most people can see it prominently, I'm surprised they just don't put it on the left shoulder, by the sleeve there. And you say to yourself, okay, well, why did Nike choose to do this? Well, they wanted, obviously the most visibility for their dollars. But for me personally, looking at it, I just think it doesn't look right. The Old English D is so sacred. It's an amazing jersey. It's, classic. And so to start putting advertisements on it, it's new, it's different, but it's not for me. I'm not a fan of it at all. But for me, if I was going to shell out some dollars, I'm not buying an Old English D jersey with a Nike swoosh on it. Come on. I'm into vintage. I like the way the jersey looked. I liked what it represented without all of that. But at the same time, I'm not going to begrudge the Tigers for doing it. My way of showing and vocalizing my anger is to not purchase it. And that's just the bottom line because, for me, I'm a guy that, is fascinated by all the tinkering that has been done with the Old English D. Do you guys remember just a year ago or so that they, decided to enlarge the Old English D, I think a couple years back. And then, the outcry started to pour in. People were like, what the heck is going on with this hat? It looks ridiculous. And then they changed it back. And I just think that in their pursuit of sales, that sometimes you ruin a good thing. And the Old English D and how it looked on the home and away jersey just is classic. It's vintage. It looks good. And to sully that with the Nike swoosh is just kind of, ugh. And I really do think that they would get more visibility by putting it on the shoulder. I'm surprised that that's where they decided to put it, and I'm surprised the Tigers rolled it out. And if you go look on Twitter, the response hasn't been kind. The Tigers did announce it and took a photo and posted it on the Detroit Tigers official Twitter page, and the first at least 20 responses, all thumbs down, all negative in reply to it. And it's not just the Tigers. I mean, the New York Yankee, the classic pinstripe, now has the Nike swoosh. So it's just not appealing. Now, other teams have done it. In the Pistons, with Flagstar, you start to see patches, and it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more easy on the eyes. The Old English D is classic because we've seen it for so long, and it hasn't undergone many, many changes. And each time, and every time there's been changes, there's been an outcry. So I'm fascinated what you guys think. Feel free, message me on Twitter at Detroit Podcast if you're listening to this, and let me know. Am I wrong? Am I entering into that phase where I'm the old guy and is like, don't change anything? I just don't see the many pluses outside of the dollars for the Detroit Tigers. I'm fascinated to see if fans will take to this and really be interested in the Nike swoosh. I just find it to be just not easy on the eyes. I don't think it looks good, quite frankly. It does look different. It does look like, here's the Tigers again, looking for those dollars. And Nike was right there, and they're going to want to feature their swoosh logo. But for me, I don't think I'm going to be purchasing anything with the Detroit Tigers Old English D and Nike associated with it. One other interesting note regarding the team, Al Avila did discuss with reporters earlier this week that the Tigers' rebuild now is done in the phase of deconstructing, meaning that they're going to start now acquiring some talent, putting together the roster. The deconstruction of the Tigers has ended, and we're thankful for that. I mean, it's good that Al came out and clarified because, well, at least at this point in time, most people assume that 2020 is going to be an awful, awful baseball year, and last year was, quite frankly, really tough to cover. It went by kind of fast. It didn't become a grind covering all the games, but you just didn't have a lot of things to talk about outside of, okay, who doesn't belong, who needs to leave, and what's up with the starting pitching rotation. A lot of the talent just wasn't there, so it makes for tough storylines. It makes for a tough watch week in, week out to go out there to Comerica Park and cover that team. And I think the other aspect was kind of looking critically at Miguel Cabrera and Ron Gardenhire in terms of their performance. I think they can both admit that they didn't do their best jobs in 2019, and hopefully Miguel Cabrera is taking the off-season training program seriously. His health is a lot better so that he can actually get on the field and stay healthy. But if you remember last year, Al Avila came out and said that his knee is degenerative, that injury is not one that's going to get drastically better. It just can be somewhat maintained if he does actually lose some weight and maintain his health. So that's something that hopefully he took seriously and is working with a nutritionist, is working out as much as humanly possible. So I'm hoping for that, no doubt about it. At least if Miguel Cabrera is healthy, then it'll make the Tigers a little bit easier to watch. Last year was quite the struggle. Oh my goodness. And finally, to end this edition of the Motor City Sports Rant, have to complain about the Baseball Hall of Fame committee. How can you have a Hall of Fame without Lou Whitaker? I mean, especially after you recently inducted Alan Trammell. It's a tough situation because you look at it from the perspective of advanced analytics, which many people are doing these days. There are numbers that indicate that Lou Whitaker compares to those that are going to be Hall of Famers and those that are already in the Hall of Fame, which makes it tough for Tigers fans because of the fact that right now the Tigers are struggling. There's not enough positivity surrounding the Tigers. They're in a complete rebuild, and many people, in fact, don't have confidence that the rebuild is actually going to go anywhere. So it would have been a victory for Detroit. It would have been, a nice thing for Lou Whitaker and Alan Trammell to really get that respect. And I think a lot of people really are looking back to that 84 team and going, why aren't they revered more? Why isn't that team that started off 35-5 respected at the highest levels? Why are we even questioning should Lou Whitaker be in the Hall of Fame? And I just think that it would have been a nice win for Detroit. I think people harken back to the feeling they got when Alan Trammell was inducted, and we all paid attention to his speech and reminisced a little bit. I was young. I think I was 5-6 years old, but I do remember the town. I do remember sitting and watching some games and things like that, obviously not knowing what that meant, the whole 1984 team, but defeating the Padres, what it did for the city, the excitement that team created because of the fact that they were a great team that started off 35-5, and they came together and finished the deal. And it was a tough-nosed team, and I think that team embodied what all of Detroit represents. And so to not get the national respect is outlandish. And I think to see that of the 12 votes that he needed, Lou Whitaker only got 6. So unfortunately, they don't release who voted and who did not. So we won't get a chance to criticize too much. But at this point in time, factually, we have to wait 2 years where his name will be placed on the ballot again in 2022 to determine if his name will be placed again for another vote a year later, I believe. So will Lou Whitaker get into the Hall of Fame? I think so, but it might be a situation where he's got to wait a period of time, but I'm not sure there's enough groundswell. I'm not sure there's enough national push for Lou Whitaker. It's strong here in Detroit, but it's nowhere near as strong as it needs to be nationally. I just think that at the end of the day, Detroit will just have to shower him love, and I think the sentiment that everybody's talking about, and it should happen. The Tigers need to acknowledge Lou Whitaker, retire his number, and stop this silliness that's been going on, and the whole notion that they don't retire numbers unless the person's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, Alan Trammell's number should have been retired a decade ago, and you just now did it because he's in the Hall of Fame. Tigers, make it right. Retire Lou Whitaker's number and give the fans a reason to come back again to Comerica Park for a nice celebration to honor Lou Whitaker and what he did. You know, that duo, Tram to Lou, was just one of those combinations that's timeless and should be respected. That's my 2 cents on it. I thank you again. I thank Jason Langwell for being a guest on this edition of the Motor City Sports Rant. Thanks to our sponsors, the DFS Doctors and the Motor City Pawnbrokers. You can download any podcast that we air wherever you find your favorite podcast, whether it be iTunes, Podomatic, Stitcher, DetroitSportsPodcast.com, Google Play. Anywhere your favorite podcast is available, definitely click and search Detroit Sports Podcast. I look forward to bringing you another edition of the Motor City Sports Rant next time.
Okay, nice idiot. F you. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.